Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, AnglerQuest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations, as we are here to do the Labor Day weekend edition of Outdoor Magazine Radio. The Labor Day edition. Again, I say, how did it get to be Labor Day already? But I've been saying that for a couple of weeks. By now, though, I do think a lot of people, I think myself included, are ready. We are ready to say goodbye to summer and welcome fall. Fall probably, I love summertime. I don't enjoy the hot, muggy weather. More on that in a minute. I do enjoy fall. I enjoy the cooler temps, the lower humidity, the changing leaves, the fall hunting season, the fall fishing. Fall, I think, is probably my favorite time of year. Fall is a wonderful time of year. So, and you know what? For a lot of people right now, we're basically in the fall mode anyway. Kids in a lot of parts of the state, kids and grandkids, have gone back to school. And we're making the mental leap from summertime to fall. But we've got one last blast of summer, and that is this weekend, this long Labor Day weekend. I hope you get a chance to get out and enjoy it. Now, the weather. Boy, last week, earlier, the weather was oppressive, muggy, hot, miserable. Pick your word. And then Mother Nature said, okay, I've had enough of the hot, muggy weather too, so I'm going to bring in, boom, storms. Maybe a tornado. Winds and cooler temps. Thank you. Thank you. But it was an interesting day there earlier in the week, wasn't it? I am back in the studio now, the first time back in the studio after having cataract surgery. I'll tell you what, modern medicine is wonderful. Now, cataracts, right, that's an acknowledgement that I'm an old guy because I had cataract surgery. It's actually my second one. But I'm here in the studio now, not wearing cheaters. I can see my computer screen. I can see my keyboard. I can see John Dent, who's in here with me, perfectly in focus. So it's wonderful. And I'm enjoying my improved eyesight. Thank you, Dr. Graham. As I look at all the bear pictures that people are sending me, I love, first of all, I love trail camera pictures. Please send them to me. Share them with me. I love to see them. The best way, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't hesitate to send them. If for some reason it's a critter or an area you don't want to share or don't want to give details on, let me know. That's fine. I'm not going to give up your honey hole. But if you just want to share them, please send them to me, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I do love seeing deer pictures. Who doesn't love to see trail camera pictures of bucks in velvet? In fact, yesterday I was driving down the road, middle of the day, looked off to the right, boom, my eye caught this flash of brown where there shouldn't be brown. Okay, so I'm immediately like a laser beam with new eyes, right? Boom, focus in on that. I pass by the barn that is obscuring my view, and I see 4, maybe 5 bucks in velvet standing there looking right at me. Now, they weren't looking at me. They were looking at my direction, but I'd like to think they were looking right at me. Bachelor group of bucks in velvet. Beautiful. Midday. I thought, how cool is that? So I don't dislike seeing deer pictures. I love seeing deer pictures. I just don't have the passion for deer pictures that I do for bear pictures. And I've been getting a lot of trail cam pictures of bears, including from my buddy, Johnny Bowler, the bear whisperer, who keeps teasing me by sending me pictures of bears that are coming into a bait that I will likely be hunting this fall. He's also sending me pictures of wolves that are coming into his baits, but that's another story as well. So why do I not enjoy the deer pictures to the extent that I enjoy the bear pictures? I'm going to get off topic of where I intended to go, but my mind is taking me here. Why am I not as excited about deer hunting as I used to be? Because I can't embrace the culture of modern day deer hunting. I can embrace the culture of old school deer hunting, but I can't embrace the culture of modern day deer hunting. What do I mean by that? In many circles these days, your harvest is not valid, legitimate, or celebrated unless you have achieved several criteria, including you have to shoot the buck in a food plot that you have planted. It has to be a buck that you have trail camera pictures of. It has to be a buck that you have named to your hit list. It has to be a buck that you have passed on previous years, and you must have at least one set of sheds from that buck to prove that you are worthy of killing that buck. And it has to be, first and foremost, a mature buck. And if all of those steps, those hurdles aren't crossed, you shouldn't have taken the animal. I can't buy into it. I can't accept it. Now, if you want to, and I'm very serious about this, if that's the way you feel, God bless you. Honestly, have at it, enjoy it, and challenge yourself. But please, don't look down on the rest of us who can't buy into it. You can't hold somebody responsible who only has a couple of weekends a year to hunt. You can't hold them to your standards. So that's why I personally can't get that excited, or as excited as I used to, about deer hunting, but I can get excited about bear hunting. My Brenton 350 Legend, all I have to do now, the scope is mounted. That new scope is mounted. I just got to sight it in to get ready for my season coming up. The late season, which poses some challenges. Indeed, it does, but I'm ready. Oh, I had a very cool experience the other day. I realized that in today's world, eagles are so common that a lot of people, the younger people, don't get that excited about them anymore because you see them everywhere. I didn't see my first eagle till I was 30 years old. And going back here in history a little bit, we had a problem with DDT in the food chain, and it caused eagles to have soft shells on their eggs. So when the eagle sat on them, they would crack. Also crossed bills on the birds, so they couldn't feed. So we didn't see eagles for a long time. Then DDT kind of flushed its way, for the most part, out of the food chain. Mother Nature took over. She cleaned things up. The birds are healthy, and we see them everywhere. So I'm sitting on the back patio the other night. Now we have a pond right behind the house. It's not our pond. It's a neighborhood pond, but it's right in my backyard, so I get to enjoy it. So I'm sitting back there on a blessedly cool evening after doing a bunch of work, sitting there enjoying myself, possibly smoking a cigar. And I look out there and I see a flash of feathers come into the pond, which is not unusual. Birds come into the pond all the time, but I'm looking at that going, that wasn't a goose. That looked like a raptor, a bird of prey. So I'm staring that direction. A minute later, this bird takes off, and he's a fully mature, beautiful bald eagle. He's got something in his talons underneath him, probably a fish. Hopefully a goose, but it wasn't. And he flies away. White head, black bird. I'm thinking, that was beautiful. And then he circles the house and he flies back over again. What a cool experience that was. Thank you, Mother Nature. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine Radio, a lot more to talk about, but I'm running out of time here. After the break, Brad Dupuie, Mr. AnglerQuest. The prototype is done. By the time you hear this show, I have video of it. I've probably posted it online. It's a beautiful boat. Then, Mark Torregrossa, Michigan's meteorologist, answering the question, why are the maples turning so early this year? Also, an outlook for the fall weather forecast. Then Jason Garvin of the Michigan Wildlife Council. How is the campaign going to protect and promote hunting and fishing in Michigan? In hour number 2, Chad Stewart of the DNR talking about fall deer hunting regulations. Also, EHD raising its head in southern Michigan. Tom Campbell of Woods and Water News talking about their big outdoor show coming up next weekend. This week's Ask Avery question, an interesting question about the ethics, the morals of hunting bear over bait. It's a great question. I'm happy to answer it. Then, commercial fisherman Tod Williams of the Bayport Fish Company. I've had people say, we want to hear you talk with a commercial fisherman. I'm happy to do that. And Tod has been in the commercial fishing industry for a long time. And, of course, we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website is mikeaveryoutdoors.com, and my email address is mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. I look forward to hearing from you. We'll take a break here. After we come back, Mr. AnglerQuest, Brad Dupuie, and the prototype and the future of that company. It's pretty cool, and I love to see what's happening. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in port here on WPHM 1380 AM. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Matt Smith, Outdoor Realtor. Matt, a longtime friend of mine. He's an expert, a great guy, and an expert at finding recreational properties and vacation homes. And he can help your family turn a dream into a reality. Learn more online at Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. And by the way, if you're looking for a new home as your primary residence, Matt can help you out there as well. That's Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and on Instagram. Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. Matt has joined us before for our Wednesday night live events at the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch. We have another one coming up September 18th. Brad Dupuie, Mr. AnglerQuest, will be there as well. And believe me, the call dropped, John. Brad just texted me. The call dropped. Okay. So a little bit of a background history here as John gets Brad back on the line. I saw my first AnglerQuest probably 10 years ago at an outdoor show, and I thought, man, that thing has a lot of potential. You know, at first I thought a pontoon is a fishing boat. I would never fish on a pontoon. But then I see this boat, and I'm looking at it more. I'm thinking, well, you know what? You could fish one of those things. So I got in touch with Brad. I got in touch with the folks who owned the AnglerQuest at the time, Apex Marine. We formed a partnership, and I started to fish on an AnglerQuest, and I fell in love with it. AnglerQuest has gone through a lot of changes and evolution. These days, the AnglerQuest name is owned now by Brad Dupuie. He is out on his own. He is doing a new line of AnglerQuest boats, QUEST, and the very first prototype boat. By the time you hear this show, I will have video of it posted online. It's getting ready to rock, and Brad's with us on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Brad, welcome back. How are you?
We are doing great, Mike. I'm excited to talk about AnglerQuest, and doing excellent here.
Also, as the call dropped, I was saying you also will be joining us for Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack Restaurant on September 18th, and you will have this prototype boat at the Woods and Water Show in Imlay City next weekend to show it off, right?
Yes, that is September 6th through 8th. I will have this first prototype, which turned out awesome for the first boat. able to incorporate a lot of different things that been wanting to the last couple of years here. And yes, it'll be at the show in the Freeway Sports booth, and it'll be there to show off. And
oh, I think we lost him again. Doggone it! All right, John's going to call him back again here. He's I think he's just up the road at Linwood Beach Marina, so he's not that far away. So to clarify, and we're doing the Brad and the boat will be at the Freeway shop at the Woods and Water Show next weekend. The next weekend coming up, that big outdoor show in Imlay City for their annual outdoor weekend. Coming up in the hour number 2, Tom Campbell is going to talk more about that. Okay, we got Brad back on the line. Brad, I don't know why it's dropping off. I apologize. So you're going to be at that show. Let me ask you, what was the hardest part of producing this prototype?
The hardest part was just getting the initial parts, understanding what we needed. When you start dealing with things and designing it and getting the supply chain, you're kind of starting from scratch. I had a lot of that information from the past, but to get those first parts, there's always lead time, and it just took a little time. And all in all, it was slower than what I preferred, but man, the boat turned out great for the first one, Mike.
So is this first boat, is it drastically different than the AnglerQuest we know, or just tweaking of the features that were already there?
It's really tweaking the features that were already there. The helm, the captain's seat, that is identical to what I've done in the past. I was able to incorporate things that people have wanted, like the rear work fish station. We have cabinetry in the front that we're able to access the battery switch and the batteries from the front inside the boat versus the back. Really fancied up the workstation and made it heavy duty. That is the mega area where there's lots of activity and opportunity for damage because of all the activity. So we really made that a much more robust design. The binary walls, each side, we're able to put 5 9-foot rods in each side. So that is a big thing. The chassis and the tubes, we really, really upgraded those. The tubes themselves are 0.125 material thick. We have 7 fully welded baffles in each outside tube. We have nose cone support, lateral support that is welded internally. Our channeling is really heavy duty hatch channeling. So really concentrated on the chassis and improving some of the things that really were hanging out there and needed to be, tweaked per se.
This first boat you've made now is a Pro Troll, correct?
It is. It is an 85, 24, 26 Pro Troll, very similar to what people have seen in the past. The furniture design is going to be a little different, but outside of that and the walls and the binary walls and the structure, it's going to look very similar to what you've seen in the past. It's going to have the awesome TraxTech radar arch. We're going to have a new bimini system that's going to be a little heavier, quite a bit heavier duty material than what has been used in the past. So really, really upgrading things, and excited to continue the brand and bring to people to enjoy like you and I have, Mike.
Will you do other models in the future, like a family fish? We lost him again. It's hard to have a conversation. Oh, I love the fact that we can use cell phones to reach people. Most of the time, they are absolutely rock solid. But every once in a while, even when you get somebody who's in an area that should be in a good cell, I've talked to people in the middle of Lake Superior. Well, not Lake Superior, middle of Lake Michigan, and we've had. Got him? Okay. Hey, Brad, I was asking, will you do future models other models in the future, like a family fish?
Yeah, we'll have a family fish, and we're also going to have an 18, 16-foot panfish 2-tube boat that is designed for inland lakes and smaller lake applications.
Okay, so the one you've got now that we've posted online is a prototype. When will the production models be out there? When can people get these things, and where can they get them?
Well, they're going to be able to get them from a lot of dealers that have carried them in the past, Linwood Beach Marina, Freeway Sports, a lot of the similar dealers that carried them before. We are building prototypes as we speak. We have a family fish we're making now and doing some panfish boats. And really, they're going to be available November 1st is when they're going to be available. And outdoor weekend in Imlay City at the Woods and Water Show is a great place to talk about that. And we'll be able to talk more in depth there about availability as well.
So you've kept the name AnglerQuest, but you've tweaked it a little bit. It is not QWEST. It is now AnglerQuest QUEST. Why? Why, Brad? What's the thinking there?
Well, to be honest with you, most people spell it that way anyway. But Quest Pontoons, Apex Marine, just did not want to have confusion with their brand, which is QWEST, which is an 8.5-foot pleasure boat. So due to the potential for confusion, I agreed to change that and tweak that, which I have no problem with.
No, it makes complete sense. Speaking of the other boats, I think it's important to note that if somebody has a previous AnglerQuest, QWEST, I don't think you're saying that those boats were somehow inferior or unsafe or shouldn't have a value to them. Those are still good, solid boats, right?
Oh, they are. They are, absolutely. In fact, Freeway Sports, they'll have several available models that they have, and there is nothing wrong with those boats at all. They are totally good, awesome, and I'm just taking totally awesome and going to get it a little more awesome, Mike.
Even more awesome.
That's right.
So as far as the promotional stuff, the back stuff, like websites and Facebook pages and stuff, I mean, it's time to start getting that stuff out there. Where are you at in that side of the project, Brad?
Well, the whole process of acquiring a brand and everything that comes along with it, with lawyers and accountants and bankers.
No, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine what that's like.
It does take time, but we are very, very close to totally finishing everything off here in the next couple of weeks. And once that happens, I'll be hitting the websites hard. I'll be taking ownership of the Facebook pages, and we should be rolling good. So I think realistically, September, October is going to be the time frame when you're going to start seeing website population and information rate direct to the new brand.
Hey, I know what I wanted to ask you, too, and it seems like, we get so far into the weeds, but this seems like a real obvious and basic question. If you make a prototype boat and it hasn't been on the water yet, I mean, you know it's going to float because it's based on a previous design, but that's got to be part of the whole process, too, isn't it?
It is. There's definitely testing that is going to happen. I'm going to take the boat as soon as it gets the engine and it goes to Imlay City to the Woods and Water Show. I'll be taking it from there and getting it on the water and fishing it, testing it, making sure everything performs correctly and that there's not issues with splash, cavitation, so on and so forth. So, yeah, that is definitely a piece of the puzzle that I'll be looking forward to doing because, there's some good perch fishing starting to happen, and what a better time to test, Mike.
Oh, I know, some good perch fishing, and maybe you can even sneak over to Lake Michigan just to get some late season action over there too. A lot of great opportunities this time of year, and if you don't end up down on Lake Erie, I'd be surprised this fall too.
I would agree with you. This first boat, I'm going to test it for a while and then sell it, and then we'll build another one. And honestly, what the plan is this coming spring in 2025, I'm going to have it down in St. Joe, Baton Harbor for the month of April.
Nice.
Then at Saginaw Bay from mid-May to mid-July, and then to Manistee for August. So looking forward to it.
Well, and we're also too, one way to keep informed of what's going on, we're gonna bring the AnglerQuest podcast back as well too, because now we've got things to talk about. We've got content there, so they can keep it ear up for that. Brad, congrats on this. I will look forward to seeing you at the outdoor weekend in Imlay City coming up the 6th, 7th, and 8th out there. Congrats on this. Continued good luck, and I've enjoyed watching this so far. And listen, thanks for letting me be a part of this and help promote the whole project too.
Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate it and look forward to all the coming years here.
We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Michigan's meteorologist Mark Torregrossa. Why are the maples turning, and what does this say about the upcoming fall, if anything, coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based family-owned Killer Food Plots. Yeah, you're getting to the end of your fall food plot planting window, but you've still got time. Check out the website, killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. Also, check out their new line of scents when it comes time to the actual hunting season. Rich Grzan of Killer Food Plots will be joining us at our Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack Restaurant on September 18th, 989-343-0892 for reservations. Okay, for the last couple of weeks, I've been raising the question, why are many of the maples changing colors so early? Now, I've always thought, and I've been, when I was a kid, I thought, well, it was cold weather. But then as I got older, I thought I learned that it was the length of daylight that actually caused the trees to change color. Well, this was happening in mid-August, and the maples were the only ones turning for the most part. And I couldn't get an answer. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to reach out to the man himself, Michigan's meteorologist Mark Torregrossa, to get a definitive answer on this. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Mark, welcome back. How are you? Did he drop too, John? It's going to be a long 3-hour show. Also, when we get Mark back on the line, I want to talk to him. It used to be in the old days, you would go to the Farmer's Almanac to see what the forecast was going to be. These days, we pull up our phone. Yeah, Mark just texted me. He's like, yeah. No, Mark, actually, I think Mark said he's ready. Okay, Mark, so I don't cut into your time here too much. I set this whole thing up. Why are the maples turning so early this year? I thought it was length of daylight. And by the way, welcome back to the show.
Yeah. Sure. Well, maples do change early because of stress, and we've had also some spots that have come on pretty hardcore dry. I've noticed that, like, say, for example, on an old apple tree that I have and a crab apple that the neighbor has, just in the last week or two, those have dried up and started to fall as if the tree is almost dead. So I think you find pockets where it's dry, and that's a stress for them. We've had a couple of cool mornings, and we know that some years when we don't get the cool weather, it takes forever for the leaves to change. So even these cool mornings that we drop down into the 40s in some places will help them change. And so it's about time, and we got to look at the calendar. It's September 1st also.
Well, thanks for that. But you know what? Sure. I love fall. A lot of people, for fall, it's their favorite time of year. What do you see and you're going to get mad at me, as you look into your weather crystal ball? And I know that's not what you do, Mark, so just indulge me that. When you look at the fall, what do you see as far as what the weather might hold for us?
Okay. Well, short term, it looks like there's an active storm track along the Canadian border that's allowing these systems to drop into the Great Lakes. You've noticed it, unfortunately, in a couple of the great summer weekends of August. We've had these little cool spells for a couple of days. I think that could continue. So I think we could see some, I wouldn't call them cold snaps, but I would call them robust previews of fall weather in September, a couple of days here and there. But we have to always put the 800-pound gorilla or the big piece of the puzzle in there, and that is warmer oceans and a warmer globe. And the fact that our biggest climate trend, and you as a hunter, outdoorsman, know this, the biggest climate trend we have is a warmer fall over the last couple of decades. So to say that we'll get into a cold fall would really be a hard bet to make. But I think we'll have a couple of, chill downs. Bow hunting season has, what has it been for you in the last 10 years? It's been almost summer.
Yeah.
Let's face it,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that is the 800-pound gorilla. It'll be there, but I think if you could pick your weather, you probably will be able to find a few, couple of day periods where it actually is cool and comfortable out there.
Warmer fall, actually warmer winter. I mean, you can't deny that anymore, right? I mean, the facts are our weather is milder in the fall and winter, at least than I remember it being.
Yeah, well, we can't deny it as meteorologists looking at data. People out in the masses, such as yourself, not saying you, but have denied it. But now even the people that are in the woods are living our winter, which we love here in Michigan, are saying, oh, well, what happened? It wasn't just a fluke year. Because, you go back 20, 30 years ago, we always had a fluke non-winter winter. But now we're getting 3 and 4 and 5 of them out of 7 or 8, and you're saying like it's not a fluke anymore.
No, I will admit I've been saying, boy, I just don't want to buy into it, but you have to. The facts are the facts. Mark, listen, I'm sorry for the tech problems earlier. I feel like you and I could probably spend an entire hour talking, and maybe sometime when your schedule allows, we will do that
sometime.
Yeah, let's plan on that. All right, Mark, always a pleasure. Michigan's meteorologist, Mark Torregrossa. You can follow him online at mlive.com. That's mlive.com, or his own website, farmerweather.com. That's farmerweather.com. Mark is a very knowledgeable guy, a very interesting guy, and I have a lot of people that come up to me and say, I enjoy your conversations with Torregrossa. Let's do more of them, so we should sometime when we don't have phone line problems. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, praying that the phone line problems will somehow miraculously go away, and we'll talk with Jason Garvin of the Michigan Wildlife Council with an update on their Here for Generations campaign and what they are doing to promote hunting and fishing in the modern-day world right here in the great state of Michigan. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Battle Creek on WBCK, that's 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC, AM and FM, 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on WKNW, 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by VersaSkins. Michigan-based family-owned VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. If you are a big hunter, you need 4, 5, 6X. VersaSkins can help you out. If you are a saddle hunter, VersaSkins can help you out there as well. Paul Perrone, the guy behind VersaSkins, will be at the Woods and Water Outdoor Weekend next weekend in Imlay City. You can check it out in person. If you can't make that show, go to the website versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. Also now on Amazon. Go to Amazon.com, do a search for VersaSkins brand. VersaSkins. Change your skin for the season you're in. Let's talk now about the Michigan Wildlife Council and their Here for Generations campaign. This is a group and a campaign that I have worked with for several years now. I am very much in support of what they're doing. They are promoting the role of hunting and fishing in this great state of Michigan, in the past at least, primarily to the non-hunting and angling public. Jason Garvin is a member of the Michigan Wildlife Council, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Jason, welcome back. How have you been? Jason, are you there? Oh, man. These phone lines this week are going to absolutely take a breath. Take a breath. You can deal with a bad phone line once. Not a big deal. Twice, it's like, okay, it's getting to be a pain. By the third time, it's obvious we've got phone problems here in the studio. Maybe, John, next hour we use my cell and just use, that's what we're going to do. Next hour, we have him back? Hey, Jason, I apologize. Jason, I apologize for the technical issues. Welcome back to the show. How have you been? Jason? All right, drop Jason out of here. We're going to get Jason back on the show next week. I'm going to do the spiel for these guys. The Michigan Wildlife Council and their Here for Generations campaign. I was unfortunately not able to go to the most recent meeting, and that's what I wanted to talk to Jason about. They had a meeting at Jay's Sporting Goods to talk about how the campaign has been going, and I think to talk about possible tweaks to the direction of the campaign in the future. Anyway, they have done a wonderful job in promoting the role of hunting and fishing and trapping and wildlife issues and conservation issues here in our state. Why is that important? Well, because the majority of the population here in Michigan are not hunters and they're not anglers. So we need them on our side. We need them to be educated, so when they go to the polls, they will vote as an educated person to support the role of hunting and fishing. They need to know about the role that we play as conservationists these days. All too often in our society these days, and I'm not talking about the antis, but I'm talking about the non-hunting and hunting and fishing public, which is the vast majority of the population here in our state these days. They look at us from a skewed perspective. And that perspective is just because they have no experience, right? If you didn't grow up in a hunting or fishing or shooting or trapping family, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just you don't have the insights, you don't have the knowledge into the way of life. So what the Michigan Wildlife Council is doing is they're reaching out primarily to the southern tier of states in the urban areas. That has been the direction of the campaign in the past. My sense is starting to change a little bit in that direction, and hopefully we can get Jason on the line next week on the Outdoor Magazine phone line here on the show to talk more about that, because I think it's a story that is definitely worth telling, and it's a story that in some ways is a success story because they are making a difference. You know, we want people to know, and you know what? We as hunters and anglers, we play a role in this as well. Even though we're not out there doing, you know, the radio spots or the TV spots or the online ads that the Michigan Wildlife Council is, we, as hunters and anglers and shooters and trappers, we can play a role in this as well. We can do something about this as well. And what is that? That is to continue to portray ourselves in a positive light, to continue to portray ourselves as the stewards of the resource that we are. Meaning, you know, don't be posting gory, bloody pictures online of your harvest, of your kill. We as hunters realize this, right? We get this. When you shoot something, there is blood. And honestly, as a hunter, a good blood trail is a very rewarding experience because you know you've done your job in making a quick, clean, humane killing shot. So when you talk to your hunting and fishing buddies, go ahead and talk about that. Go ahead and show them those pictures. But when you're posting them online, why not just take a second? And I'm not saying sanitize it. I'm just, we're not trying to appease the anti-hunters. We're trying to appeal to the non-hunting and fishing public. So if you've taken an animal and it was a good hit and there's lots of blood, as there should be, pull the animal off to the side. I don't care if it's a deer, a bear, a grouse, a woodcock, a pheasant, whatever it is. Take the animal off to the side. Maybe take a towel and wipe it down a little bit, clean it off a little bit. Again, not sanitize it, just make it a little more palatable to the non-hunting and angling public. Put the animal's tongue back in its mouth. Is that too much to ask for? So anyway, again, I apologize for the phone problems. We're going to try to get this cleaned up for the top of the hour. We will get Jason back. We'll try to get Jason back on next week to talk about the Here for Generations campaign. The website is hereformioutdoors.org. That's hereformioutdoors.org. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, in hour number 2, Chad Stewart of the Michigan DNR, then Tom Campbell of Woods and Water News, and a very interesting Ask Avery question. That's all coming up in hour 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, AnglerQuest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here in the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio, which earlier on, I will admit, we are having some minor technical problems. I think it's a little bit weather related, but we also think we've got it figured out. So glad to have you. Listen, this is Outdoor Magazine Radio, as I said, and I believe the best way to listen to the show, if you can, is on your local radio station. You got a lot of choices all across the state. If you can't hear Outdoor Magazine radio on your local radio station, isn't it nice to know that there's a podcast version of the show that's available? You can hear that on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I put it on the Facebook page. It's all across just about every podcast platform. Wherever you hear your podcasts, you can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. I even put it on YouTube, so check it out there as well. I do like podcasting. I think it's a great way to reach people these days, and each month I do podcasts for some of my advertising partners, including Offshore Tackle, AnglerQuest Boats, now that AnglerQuest is back up and running, and Primal Outdoors. And then when we're done recording this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, I will record this month's Primal podcast with Charlie Wiltsey, a Michigan-based pro staffer for Primal Outdoors. And one of the things Charlie's going to talk about is deer hunting. Charlie is a hardcore deer hunter. You look at, I know in our state we have a lot of very hardcore deer hunters. We have a history and tradition of deer hunting in this state, maybe second to none. You know, people are passionate about deer hunting here in Michigan. You want to start an argument, you talk about politics, religion, or deer hunting. I'm really glad I'm not the guy who is not in charge, but has kind of become the face of deer hunting here in Michigan from the DNR, Chad Stewart, who is a big game specialist, and he ends up dealing with a lot of the deer hunting issues. And he's with us now, I think, I hope, I pray, on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Chad, welcome back. You with us?
I am here, Mike. Thanks for having me back.
Charlie, how's that sound? Pretty good on your end? All right, I think we're good. All right, Chad, so listen, I don't think it's ever a slow time in your world, but certainly lately it seems like it's been a little bit busier.
Yeah, it's been a busy year. This was kind of a year unlike any other in terms of deer management, at least that I've experienced in almost 10 years in this position and even 8 years in that same position in another state. So spent a lot of time working with some stakeholder groups, what we call a citizen advisory team, and that's what culminated into what has been known as the Deer Management Initiative, and that just recently, I guess the first phase of that wrapped up in July with the commission decision to adopt regulations for this coming hunting season.
You know, I do want to talk about deer management. In fact, I was going to bring it up later in the conversation, the DMI, but as long as you brought it up now, let's follow up on this. If I am looking at this correctly, the NRC asked the DNR to put together this group of stakeholders called the Deer Management Initiative to come up with suggestions and options and look at ways maybe to look at deer hunting a little bit differently here in Michigan. The groups came up with a lot of suggestions, but then the NRC didn't seem to want to take any action on those suggestions.
Yeah, you've got the history of it right. I think there was a little bit more desire from the commission for our agency, the department, to be a little bit more engaged in co-creating management recommendations with various stakeholders, and we felt that we should bring in some unaffiliated deer hunters as well. So we did that. We worked with groups out of the Upper Peninsula. We worked with groups out of the Lower Peninsula. We also met and talked extensively with our tribal partners as well in terms of what direction we should be moving deer management in. It's a very intensive process over several months. Culminating in individual reports from each group. We brought those regulatory recommendations that the group developed to the commission in a very large order that they considered and deliberated on. And in July, they made their final decisions. There were a few items out of, I would say, the Lower Peninsula team that were brought forward, but many of the items were tabled for future discussion.
You know, I know this puts you in a tough spot because you're not the guy who decided what the NRC did. But again, looking at this from the outside, if I had been a member of the DMI, one of the DMI groups, I would be pretty frustrated. I'm like, why did I put all this time in a process that they asked us to be involved in, and then seemingly, my word, not yours, ignored those suggestions?
I won't say I've spoken with every DMI member, obviously, but I've spoken with quite a few, and I think that's I think that's a fair representation. I think many of them are upset and frustrated. I don't think there was any. I don't think any of them pretended that all of their recommendations would be rubber stamped. They knew that the commission would go through and ultimately make decisions on sort of an individualized basis. But I think they were optimistic that more of their recommendations would be adopted for this hunting season than what ultimately was adopted.
I saw your interview with Jimmy Gretzinger of Michigan Outdoors, and at the end of that, it seemed like you indicated that maybe this whole DMI process will continue. So this was not a one attempt at this. Is this going to continue on, Chad?
Yeah, I think we made a lot of really good relationships with individuals and developed our relationships with some of the groups that participated. There is a desire to continue this. Now, I don't think it can look the way it did before. The timeline that we were operating under, the charge that we were tasked with was too great and too small in each case. The timeline was too small to deal with all the things that we were asked to sort of evaluate. So internally, our discussions are more about how do we evolve this DMI group and this team and still continue to better incorporate, their opinions, their discussions based around the data that we have available, and then integrate that into our regulatory recommendation process.
You talk about your internal discussions. Man, I would love to be a fly on the wall for some of those, because I can only imagine, and again, I'm putting my spin on this, okay? But there's got to be a sense of frustration in dealing with a regulating body that maybe sometimes doesn't go the way that you and the DNR would like. And then you've got your stakeholders, as you call them, and there's just a lot of deer hunters in Michigan just aren't happy with the department right now, and they're very vocal about that. And you and I have talked about this before. I feel like you guys there in Lansing, you can't please everybody, and deer hunters are some of the most vocal people out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to sort of understanding that there's a lot of opinions that exist in deer hunting, and all of those opinions are based out of passion and what they feel is best for the deer herd. Because I think in most cases, everybody wants what's best for the deer herd. They want a healthy, vibrant deer herd. They want to have a great experience. They want this tradition to thrive for years to come and for future generations. So I think that's the basis for a lot of understanding where those opinions and criticisms come from. It comes from a place of passion. So when you start to view it like that, I think it makes things a lot easier to understand that there's just a lot of people invested and that love deer hunting. And as long as that continues, I think we'll continue to work well and it will have a bright future, because people care about it. It's when people start to get apathetic about something is when it gets really concerning. And the fact that people are upset is still not a bad thing, because it means they're still passionate about it. And we're just going to continue understanding our role is to make these recommendations and what we think can improve deer hunting, and continue to work on those steps to try to make things better in the future.
Real quick before the break, and it might be unfair to ask you this question at this point with so little time, but how would you characterize deer hunting in Michigan today, the health of the herd, the state of the herd, and the culture of deer hunting in general?
Wow, there's a lot of questions there.
Yeah, I know.
So no, I look, the deer depends where you're at in the state, right? I mean, the Upper Peninsula deer herd is struggling right now. I think there's a lot of habitat issues. I think there's a lot of, obviously, eyes, as you know, on the wolf population and predators in general. In the Lower Peninsula, we have deer numbers that are extremely high. And all of that is hedged around lower deer numbers. We've got the presence of 2 diseases now in the landscape between TB and CWD, and what that means. So there's a lot of challenges, and that's largely what brought forward this DMI teams for discussion on how to evolve our deer hunting, taking into all these factors.
Chad, hang tight. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. You know how this process works. We'll take a break. We're talking with Chad Stewart of the Michigan DNR. He is the big game specialist for the Michigan DNR. And he's a guy who himself finds himself, in the crosshairs a lot. Interesting position, especially in today's world when, as Chad said, so many people are passionate about deer hunting. There's so many different thoughts. And it can be looked at that I feel like sometimes it's just we're going in the wrong direction. And that's not a criticism of Chad or DNR or anybody except maybe the NRC. More coming up after the break. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on the Twister, 92.1 WTWS. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the company that makes this sound. That's the sound of my Rapid River knife opening up. You know that. I pull it out of my pocket. I carry a Rapid River knife with me every day. I would encourage you to check out this Michigan-based, family-owned Upper Peninsula company, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us. If you get a chance, stop by their showroom on US 2 just east of Rapid River. It is absolutely beautiful. If you can't make it there, go to that website, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us. Either way, if you use the promo code Avery10, that's Avery10, you can get 10% off a Rapid River knife, including one of their brand new, just unveiled folding fillet knives, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us. We're talking now with Chad Stewart of the DNR, big game specialist. Chad is a guy who has really become kind of the focal point for deer management in Michigan. And Chad, that's an interesting position for you to be in because people look at you, Chad Stewart, as the deer guy for the DNR, but there are a lot of other people involved, yet you end up getting the, I was going to say, not much credit lately, but a lot of the attention is pointed at you.
Yeah, you can say blame. Yeah, no, I think that just goes along with the position. I'm no different than anyone that's been in this position previously. If something goes right, there's probably too much credit given, and if something goes wrong, there's probably too much blame given. So that's just what part of the job is.
Well, when you look at deer hunting in Michigan lately, and you talk about things that have gone right, what do you see that's gone right?
Well, I think there actually are some things, and I don't know if this is anything that the department is necessarily doing, but I think it's just sort of an evolution of culture that many deer hunters are experiencing. Compared to where we were 20 years ago, we absolutely have older bucks on the landscape, and that's obviously what a lot of hunters are very interested in. There's regulations that have been brought forward, like antler point restrictions, that certainly help and expedite that. But beyond that, I think many hunters are becoming more selective and passing up those younger deer and focusing on 2.5 or even 3.5-year-old bucks. So we are seeing expansion in our age structure of our buck herd. Maybe not as fast as some people would like to see, but it's certainly better than where we were 20 years ago. Additionally, I think we have been working in recent years to try and simplify our deer regulations quite a bit and provide a lot more flexibility and opportunity for hunters, giving them licenses that allow them flexibility with how they can make their management decisions. So we look at things like the combination license and how you can now take an antlerless deer with that instead of having to buy an additional antlerless tag during the firearm season. It gives a management decision back over to the hunter, and that's something that was far more restrictive in the past.
What about disease, Chad? We know chronic wasting disease. We know TB. Now EHD. I'm hearing some reports of EHD showing up in the southern part of the state.
Yeah, EHD is happening. We've confirmed it in St. Joseph's County, specifically A lot of those calls are coming in and around that town of Three Rivers. We've gotten reports out of Cass County, and although it's not confirmed yet, I suspect there's an EHD outbreak occurring there. We've also got reports, isolated, but still reports from places like Branch, Kent, Calhoun, Van Buren, and even Kalamazoo County that have come through. Again, nothing confirmed yet, but I suspect over the next couple of weeks, the number of confirmations will increase, especially as this heat wave ramps up.
Yeah, EHD is a tough one because it happens so fast, right? And you feel the results, the impact of it, like right now.
Yeah, if I were to make an analogy for EHD, it's like a tornado. You don't see it coming, and after it's there, you can see the wake of what happened in its path. You can see deer dead or dying on the landscape. So deer typically get that virus, and within 2 weeks, they're showing symptoms. They typically go to water where they try to recover or get better from it. And in some cases they do. So it's not 100% fatal disease, but in many cases the virus will kill the deer. And that's usually one of the telltale signs at this time of the year. If you start seeing deer that are dead or lethargic and dying in and around water, it's a really good indication that you have an EHD outbreak locally.
Oh, see, I thought EHD was indeed 100% fatal.
It is not. No, deer will recover from it. And actually, one of the interesting things for deer hunters to know, if you shoot a deer in the fall and you look at their hooves, you'll start to see if a deer had EHD and is recovering from it, you'll see a growth interruption on their hooves, on all four of their hooves. So you can see this ridge, the exact distance from the hairline on the hooves that shows that animal probably had EHD in the fall and recovered from it.
Okay. All right. Well, in the time we have left, let's go ahead and talk about some of the changes for deer hunting this fall. Are there many, Chad?
There are not a whole lot, but the ones that are out there, especially I would say for the lower peninsula where most of the changes occurred, some people will think are fairly significant. For one, the early and late antlerless season that we've always had has always been on private land. That's been changed to both public and private land now. So individuals who want to go out on those seasons, try to harvest an antlerless deer, but don't have access to private land, can now go out and hunt state forests, state game areas, etc., and they'll have that available to them. In Zone 2, which is our northern lower peninsula, the muzzleloader season has been changed. The dates are still the same, but now it's no longer a muzzleloader only season. It's an any legal firearm season, and we've had that same regulation in Zone 3 for several years now. So really, all of the lower peninsula now is the muzzleloader season is any legal firearm season. Of course, you can still go out with your muzzleloader, but you can also pick up your legal shotgun or rifle to go out as well.
So that in effect makes like a month-long or 6-week rifle season.
It does, yes.
And that I'm sure is an attempt to take more deer.
Yeah, when we brought that forward several years ago for Zone 3, we looked at it as an opportunity to increase success rate, maybe even increase participation and increase what we believe would be antlerless harvest, since the majority of the harvest at that time of year is antlerless. In Zone 3, we did not really see much of a change at all.
Really?
No, I think what's generally happening is people are putting down their muzzleloaders and picking up their shotguns or centerfire rifles and shooting the same number of deer that they always would. So we haven't really seen any changes in the trends. It's just providing more opportunities for people to get out. But it hasn't really increased participation. It hasn't really increased harvest at all. So I would expect that this is probably going to be a similar outcome for Zone 2 as well. I know we hear a lot about, having 6 weeks of rifle season and the deer herd can't support it. But not all of those days and weeks are built the same. And there's typically very little participation that's occurring at that time of year. And I'm not expecting an increase in overall harvest, but I could be wrong, and we'll continue to monitor what those results of those regulation changes look like this year and moving forward.
And speaking of moving forward, I see next year, 2025, the youth season is does only. What's the reaction been to that?
Mixed, I would say. There's obviously a lot of passion associated with on both sides of that. There's a lot of people who have been thinking that youth season, and it would also include a prohibition on the eligible hunters with a disability to take an antler deer, so they would have to be antlerless only. A lot of opinions on both sides of that, both support and against it. I would be surprised if that regulation isn't revisited at some point between now and next hunting season, at least for further discussion, because it's generated so much discussion. But ultimately, that will be up to the commission to decide, probably next spring, next summer.
So overall, in the UP, few deer, restrictions on hunters taking deer, and in the lower, a lot of deer and more accessibility to those animals.
Yeah, that's typically what's been the general pattern. We know that deer numbers are lower in the Upper Peninsula, and we continue to scale back on opportunity and in some cases season length. In the Lower Peninsula, we know that many areas have a lot of deer, and those opportunities continue to be expanded, which now includes expanding archery season in several counties in the South through January 31st, as well as having an expanded late antlerless firearm season, basically in Zone 3, which will now go through January 2nd through the second Sunday in January.
Well, the season is indeed coming up on us here, that youth season, the Liberty Hunt that's going to start before you know it, and then everything kicks off, and there we go.
Yeah, I think not a moment too soon, right? I think it'll just get better if everybody can get out and do some hunting, and that sometimes the anticipation is worse than once we get out there and you can actually go out and enjoy what you've been waiting for this whole year.
Chad, listen, I always enjoy our conversations. I appreciate the fact that you are in an interesting situation. You got people below you looking at you. You got people above you looking at you, and not always in the best light. But I always enjoy our conversations because I feel like you're telling me as much as you can in the manner that you are allowed to. So I do appreciate that.
I enjoy it as well, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right, Chad Stewart of the Michigan DNR, michigan.gov/DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. We will take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. I wouldn't want Chad's. Honestly, you could not pay me to take Chad Stewart's job. Take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Tom Campbell of Woods and Water News. Normally, we have Chad in the first hour of the Tom in the first hour of the show. This week, he's joining us a little bit later to talk about the big outdoor weekend coming up next weekend in Imlay City. He's going to talk about it right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold WCBY. That's 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba on WCHT. That's 600 AM, 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination right now on the bay. Walleye action in shallow is kind of slow. They're getting a few fish out deep, but right now a lot of people are looking at the perch fishing. If you want to access Saginaw Bay, a great place to do it is from the boat launches at Linwood Beach Marina. You can check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com, linwoodbeachmarina.com. As we get closer to the fall season, if you are one of those folks who fishes the fall, I would encourage you to use Linwood Beach. If you're one of those folks who's going to be getting ready to put their boat away in the not-too-distant future, Linwood Beach can help you out there as well. Again, the website, linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Great facilities, great location, and great people. Speaking of great people, the folks at Woods and Water News, as you are hearing the radio show this weekend, man, are they busy, because next weekend coming up is the annual Woods and Water Outdoor Weekend. Tom Campbell along with us to talk about that right now. Tom, how are things going?
Great, Mike. Can't complain. We're so excited about the event this year. And of course, it's you got a lot of anxiety, and you want it to get here, and you want the weather to be nice, and you want everything to go well. So, but we're ready. We are ready, and we can't wait.
Well, there's nothing you're going to be able to do about the weather, but you've put together a great lineup of guests once again, and speakers, and also vendors.
We did, Mike. You're absolutely right. We've got incredible speakers. We talk about it every year, but one of the biggest draws at the outdoor weekend is Steve Francis from Country Smokehouse. We do an actual demonstration, field dressing demonstration of a white-tailed deer on stage. He points out the way they do it, the way he recommends doing it, but it's not argumentative about what he's doing is the only way. So it just draws a great crowd, and we're really anticipating a better crowd for all those youth hunters that'll be hunting the following weekend. They can step up there and see how it's done and get some tricks from one of the best in the business, and it's always a popular event. And to follow that up, we got one of the up-and-comings in the deer hunting industry, and it's Adam Lewis. He's an award-winning writer, and he's founded the Deer IQ podcast, and he's going to be talking about how to take big bucks consistently, and he's going to give seminar goers some great tips and some steps that they can take to improve their deer hunting even as early as this year. So you'll want to miss that. And of course, we've got Rich with Killer Food Plots coming to give us awesome fall tips and some things we should do to our food plots yet this year, and of course get ready for next year as well. So it's going to be a great lineup for deer hunters and young hunters, and we encourage everybody to come and check out those seminars.
Well, and I know some of your vendors include some of my friends, my advertising partners. Paul Perrone of VersaSkins is going to be there. Andy Weiss of Truck Trolley is going to be there. Brad Dupuie is going to be there at the Freeway booth with the brand new AnglerQuest prototype. So there's a lot of reason for people to come on out.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Mike. I mean, it's incredible that the infield has taken on this super we kind of, everything power sports is what we're kind of looking at it. We tell people if it's got wheels, tracks, pontoons, or a haul, you'll find it at the Woods and Water Outdoor Weekend, because we got some tremendous, like you said, Freeway's going to be there. We get bad boy mowers out of, they put on a heck of a display in the lawnmowers that they make and food plot equipment. It's incredible. And you can go right down the line we got every type of ATV there is, with Grace Performance being there, Ray C's. We've got Kurt Supply. It's kind of an endless group, but it's fantastic. You can find just about anything. Well, we kind of tell people too, is you can come to the outdoor weekend. You probably could spend $3 and get a good fishing lure. And then you could go over and spend maybe $70,000-$80,000 on a new food plot tractor.
Well, it's such a great time, and it always sneaks up on us so fast. This is next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Eastern Michigan Fairgrounds in Imlay City. What about the rest of the details, Tom?
You got it. Friday we open at 3 o'clock. We go to 9 o'clock on Friday night. Saturday's 9 to 7. Sunday 9 to 5. And you can go to our outdoorweekend.net for all the schedules on information, all our entertainment that we've got, the vendors that'll be there. You'll find it all there. And we hope you make it. It's also a $10 admission. 12 and under are free, and it's free parking, Mike.
Tom, always a pleasure. Good luck. Have fun. I'll see you out there, and we'll pray for good weather.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mike.
Tom Campbell of Woods and Water News. Again, the website, outdoorweekend.net. That's outdoorweekend.net. Or the website for Woods and Water News is woods-and-waternews.com. Yeah, I'm going to try to get out there Friday afternoon, and then hopefully Saturday my plans are to be in Grayling for the unveiling of the Fred Bear statue there. So it's going to be a busy weekend coming up. You know, that first full weekend after Labor Day weekend is when things really take off, really start to rock. And we are indeed getting to that time of year. All right, we'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in our third hour, a topic that I haven't really, I haven't talked with a commercial fisherman here on the show in a long time. A lot of things going on out there on the water as far as commercial fishing. I've got Tod Williams, the Bayport Fish Company, coming up. Tod is an interesting guy. We'll talk about that tradition, what they want to do, maybe some of the good, some of the bad. But that's coming up in hour 3. And, of course, Dixie Dave coming up in hour 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine. Hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. You can hear us in Manistee and WMLQ 97.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee on WTIQ 1490 AM 95.3 FM. I just realized before the break, I got ahead of myself. I thought we were going into the top of the hour. I misspoke. I apologize. But, you know, honestly, with everything going on in the studio this morning with the phone lines and such... Please forgive me. But the fact that we're even able to do the show when we basically don't have any phone lines, it's like some broadcast magic going on. So anyway, there is one more segment of this second hour, and that segment is the Ask Avery segment. And Ask Avery is always brought to you by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoors men and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way this segment works is, and you know this by now, this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. You can ask me a question directly, or you can ask me a question you want me to forward on to the DNR or MUCC or somebody like that. And the best way to get those questions to me is to send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That is exactly what Jason Covington did. He sent me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. And here's that email. Mike, maybe one of your longest Indiana listeners. I've been listening to you since the early 2000s. I look forward to listening to your podcast every Monday morning as it helps my week get off to a great start. He said, and it makes me appreciate my love for Michigan, even though I don't live there. The question is, and this is regarding a comment I made about the bear whisperer. He says, how is it you call him the bear whisperer, knowing that? He said, I know nothing about bear hunting, and I love seeing bears when I'm in Michigan. I just have a hard time understanding when these bears are killed over bait. Let me explain, he says. 3 weeks ago, my family and I were in Watersmeet in the western UP, and we ate at a restaurant. While there, we watched 4 to 6 bears eat on bait they had set out as an attraction. He said, this is a real lure of the restaurant, as they advertise bears coming up right outside the windows while you eat. Anyway, any one of us could have shot a massive bear, and I would not have considered anyone who did this to be a great hunter because there would be no skill involved. Does this make sense? He says to me, there seems to be a lot more skill for deer or definitely elk or moose rather than bear hunting over bait. Can you help me understand this? What a great question, Jason. So my response is, hey, Jason, great to hear from you, especially with such a great topic of discussion. In Michigan, there are 2 basic ways to hunt bears, with dogs and over bait. The bear population and our Michigan terrain don't really allow an effective spot and stalk style of hunting like maybe you're used to with deer hunting or possibly elk or moose. I said, I admit that hunting those tame bears behind the restaurant would not be fair chase. Baiting wild bears, however, is a different story. It can be tough to consistently attract wild bears to a bait site. You have to know where to put the bait, what kind of bait to use, and how much to put out. Even then, once the animals discover that bait, they often go nocturnal in visiting. So the challenge for a guide like Johnny or any other good guide is to get a respectable animal to come in during shooting hours while a hunter is there. A guide might get lucky and be successful his first time, but to improve the odds, it takes years of experience. In this case, Johnny Bowler, the bear whisperer, has more than 30 years of wisdom, and he's very good at figuring out how to maximize his odds of success. That's why I call him the Bear Whisperer. I said, Jason, does that make sense? Well, he emailed back and he said, absolutely. It makes complete sense. I now understand what you're talking about. And he said, I appreciate you answering that very much. Well, I'll tell you what, Jason, I appreciate you asking that question because it's a great question. And I have people ask me this all the time. How sporting is it to hide in a blind a few yards away from a bear bait and shoot a bear? Well, it's legal, and I think it's ethical. And we need to hunt bears, right? The only other option here in Michigan, as I said in my email to Jason, is hunt over hounds or hunt with hounds. I don't do that, but I certainly have no problem with it at all. I respect the houndsmen. They do a great job as well. And a lot of times the houndsmen will actually chase bears. I think it's called a race. And they'll tree the bear and then look at it and go, nope, that's not a bear that we want to harvest, and they'll let him go. And some people say hunting over hounds isn't ethical. I think it is. If we could spot and stalk bears here in Michigan, would I do it? I don't know. I'd probably still hunt over bait. I love the act of sitting there in that blind, just watching nature unfold around me and just watch the woods and watch the critters and maybe eventually watch a bear coming in front of me. If you have a question you would like to send me, please email it to me, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I would love to hear from you. And as always, thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. You can check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. Now, we will indeed take that break for the top of the hour that I was earlier talking about. And after the break, indeed, we will be joined by commercial fisherman Tod Williams out of the Bayport Fish Company on Saginaw Bay in Bayport. I have not talked with a commercial fisherman for a long time. It seems like a good time to do that, to learn more about what those folks do, what it involves, and what they see as the future for commercial fishing. Sometimes sport anglers, recreational anglers don't like the commercial folks. Well, we'll get Todd's reaction on that. And, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. That is indeed coming up in hour 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, AnglerQuest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show on a Labor Day weekend. The unofficial end of summer, the unofficial kickoff of the fall season. So what does that mean for you and your family? Are you doing anything fun? Are you on the road? Are you up north? Are you dealing with traffic? Are you just sitting home, putting your feet up and relaxing? Whatever this weekend means for you, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get the most out of it as we kind of do make this transition, right, from the summertime to the fall. So many different outdoor activities here in the great state of Michigan. So many things to do. So many different topics of discussion. And in this hour, I want to talk with somebody and about a topic that I really haven't addressed that much here on the show, and that is commercial fishing. Now, we have talked about commercial fishing as it pertains to the consent decree negotiations and the tribes up north. We haven't talked that much about commercial fishing in the southern part of the state, the non-tribal waters. And I've actually had people reach out to me. They send me emails to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Say, Mike, I would love to have you talk with a commercial fisherman to find out more about that side of the outdoors here in Michigan. And then coincidentally, Tod Williams of the Bayport Fish Company reached out to me on social media messaging, and we got going back and forth. And I said, Tod, hey, listen, we haven't talked in a while. Would you be interested in joining me on the phone? He said, absolutely. And here he is, Tod Williams of the Bayport Fish Company on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Tod, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Mike. Good to talk to you.
Hey, same to you. Tell me about Bayport Fish Company. Now, you guys, you and your brother Forrest, you've been out there for, well, a long time now.
Yeah, we've been here since 1977, so 45 years basically.
How has commercial fishing and your side of the business and your side of the world, how has it changed over those years, Tod?
Well, we used to catch mostly carp and catfish and sheephead and quillbacks. And then, of course, we had a good population of perch. And once the zebra mussels came in and changed the whole ecology of the lake, all those species have basically diminished. And then with the clear water, and the walleyes have definitely expanded with the help of the planning by the sports groups. And, of course, natural reproduction was always there, but it wasn't enough to sustain a good fishery for the walleye. So basically all we're fishing for right now is whitefish.
So you're not even targeting perch anymore? Is that just because there weren't enough of them out there to make it worth your while?
Yes, that's right. We haven't fished in the bay since 2019. Just wasn't worth the fuel and the labor, and just wasn't worth it financially.
Well, and perch used to be such a big part of your catch, I think.
Yeah, well, it was like the frosting on the cake. That's where you made some money. The other fish kept you going, but you make any profit, the perch definitely helped.
And so now these days you say primarily whitefish?
Yes, yep.
How do you target those fish? Aren't they out in deeper, colder water for the most part, Tod?
Yes, they are. There's a resident population in the bay that they come in fall, and they stick around, until like mid-June. But they live out in the big lake. We fish, from Bayport, it's about 27 miles we run. We're fishing about 8 to 10 miles off of Port Austin and about 10 miles from the Charities in 90 foot of water or up to 150.
How in the world do you fish that deep with nets?
Well, we have deep trap nets. They're 40-foot nets, most of them, which means that they fish up 40 foot and the pot is like 20 foot deep. And so, you just got lots of rope and big anchors and just get her done.
And are you relying on, when you find those fish, are you relying on modern technology and electronics, or are you going by the seat of your pants saying, hey, I know this is where the fish are?
Well, before we had, good electronics, it was just basically sounding the bottom with flashers, to look for drop-offs. But it's helped to have, good depth finders. But usually, we fish pretty much the same spots because they're basically reefs that we've identified. And, fish live, they like to cover, and it's more food there. So, it's something we've been developed over the years, different spots.
So those fish will generally, unless something changes, they'll come back to the same spot year after year?
Yes, they do. And then in the fall, they come in to spawn in the shallow water. They'll spawn right up in, like 5 foot of water if you want to go up in there. But we don't have any nets that'll fish that shallow that'll catch whitefish. We usually fish just a couple nets because the weather's usually pretty unpredictable in the fall, and it'd be the last couple weeks of October. Then season closes the 1st of November, and so basically that's when we're done.
Well, back in the old days when we used to get winter, I think Mother Nature would probably shut you down before the actual season closed anyway, eh?
Yeah, occasionally it did, yeah. Hopefully we get winter again.
Now, you guys, do you fish through the ice then? You don't anymore, do you?
No, we don't. We used to fish carp gill nets through the ice, but there hasn't been good ice, and there's not a whole lot of carp left in the bay either. Years back, probably 20, 30 years ago, there was some blue-green algae that killed a bunch of them, and they haven't really recovered. I mean, it used to be splashing all over the cuts in the spring, and now you're lucky if you see one or two.
So you say you used to be able to fish gill nets for carp, but overall, I mean, you guys these days are limited to trap nets. You can't use gill nets anymore, can you?
Yeah, just for carp. It's 8-inch gill nets, big mesh. We can still use them in the bay, but, you know, it's not really profitable, so nobody does. That's the only legal gill net for commercial fishermen, except for chub nets that are got to be over 40 fathom, and nobody's got a chub license around here. Most of them would be up north, and they haven't fished those in a while either because the same reason ecology's changed and the chubs aren't as productive as they were.
Well, you talk about being profitable, and I don't want to get into your business here, but if you weren't doing this for 40 years, I mean, can somebody start out now and say, buy your license and start a new commercial fishing business and be profitable at it, or are those days gone?
Oh, they could do that. Whitefish is big demand for them, and the price is pretty good. So, yeah, they could, just take over the license and fish whitefish. And if the perch ever come back, it'd be worthwhile to fish for those. But I'm not looking forward to that. I don't see it in our future.
So what do you see as the future of Bayport Fish Company? I mean, are you guys going to retire and sell it off, or you got another generation coming up, or what?
Yeah, my daughter's basically running it. My wife passed, and my brother passed, and I'm getting old, so we've got people that are, they know what they're doing, so they're actually running the show with my daughter, and she plans on hopes to stay in business.
I got to be honest, I didn't even know Forrest was gone. I apologize for not knowing that, so my condolences on that. But the history, when I look at the history of commercial fishing, man, it goes back forever. I'm always talking about the history and tradition of the outdoors. I never talk about commercial fishing, but it is a family-based, multi-generational activity for most of you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, most of the fishermen are, family passed down from generation to generation.
I've been out there with your guys in the past. I know it's not an easy thing to do. It's hard work. There's a lot of labor, and sometimes in conditions that aren't so great.
That is true. I remember when you went out, that was back in the 90s. You went out on our slow boat, and it got rough, and didn't get anything done, but we took you out on our new boat, and I still got a videotape of that.
I also remember being out with you guys one time, and you pulled up a sturgeon. It's the first one I'd ever seen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we usually catch a few in the fall. They like rivers. I mean, we catch them out deep, too, but off Caseville, we catch a few every year.
Well, hang tight, Todd. We're talking with Tod Williams of the Bayport Fish Company. Their website, bayportfish.com, bayportfish.com. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, I want to talk to Todd a little bit more about, and I don't want to get too deep into politics, but I want to talk about the politics of fishing these days. A lot of the recreational sport anglers don't like the commercial fishermen. They think that the commercial fishermen, they do want walleye, and I don't blame them for wanting a walleye, but there's so many different things around this, and I don't know. What is the future of commercial fishing? How does that interact with the future of sport fishing? MUCC wants different regulations. They want to make the commercial fishermen check their nets more frequently. Well, we'll get Todd's reaction to that and more coming up after the break. And, of course, we'll talk to Tod, and then we'll wrap up this week's show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. You know it wouldn't be Outdoor Magazine without talking to Dixie Dave. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us just up the coastline in Muskegon, just down the coastline in Muskegon, WKBZ 1090 AM. And jumping over to the other side of the state in the thumb, Sandusky, WMIC is 660 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Premier Maritime Training. If you've ever wanted to get your captain's license, I think this is your best bet. Captain John Littlefield taught my captain's class, and if he can help me become a licensed charter captain, he can help you as well. Check out the website, pmtcaptains.com, for more info. John has classes across the state, and I'm sure you can find one that fits your schedule. That's pmtcaptains.com. Speaking of captains, right now, talking with longtime commercial fisherman on Saginaw Bay. His name is Tod Williams of the Bayport Fish Company. The website, bayportfish.com. That's bayportfish.com. And Tod, listen, I appreciate you being along with us.
Well, it's great to be here, Mike.
I am curious about the evolution of commercial fishing, where we are today, and what you see as the future in general. You got a lot of eyes on you guys these days. How's this all going to work out, Tod?
You know, it's hard to say. Sportsmen, of course, don't particularly like us. Some of them understand the situation, but the problem you got right now is there's so many walleyes in the bay that nothing else is really doing all that great, except for like maybe smallmouth bass and sheephead. But at the moment, we're just at a meeting yesterday, or my daughter was. I'm still recovering from a shoulder surgery, but with the DNR, the Lake Huron Citizens Advisory Committee, and DNR is there all the time, you know, giving information. And they have a plan for the bay, of course. At the moment, there's 12 million walleye in the bay. 6 million are 2 years or older. And at first they thought they might be peaking, but now they're not so sure. They think that's yet to come. And yellow perch spawn really good every year, but only 3% of them make it to a year. The rest of them are eaten by walleyes, cormorants, and, you know, other predators. So that's where the perch are. They're not doing real great, and the walleyes are doing wonderful. And there's only 1 million licenses in the state. A few more than that, I believe, commercial or sports licenses. And there's 9 to 10 million people in the state. So we're fishing for the 90% of the people, and the sportsmen are fishing for 10% of the people. So our deal is it'd be nice to be able to take some walleye to help reduce the population and get it manageable, because right now it's out of control. And the DNR's got the ability to issue research permits, and they can limit how many fish you take. They can monitor that quite easily. They monitor us all the time.
I think that's interesting. I've heard this line of thinking before, that you guys are out there fishing for the majority of the population in our state that doesn't go out and fish for themselves.
Correct.
And the DNR has said they want us to knock down the number of walleye in the bay. That's why they decreased the size limit and increased the daily creel limit. Now, I'm not saying this is something I'd like to see, but if the commercial guys come in there, you could knock down that population.
Well, we could help, that's for sure.
What about... Go ahead,
right
Tod.
now,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're fine. Right now, there's, I think it's 23% of the walleye leave the bay. Every year, they've got underwater monitors that monitor where they're going and where they go. And 23% of them go to southern Lake Huron, and Canadians are taking approximately 20% of the walleyes in Saginaw Bay every year. And, you know, we don't feel that's just, you know. Why should we have to buy walleyes from Canada when they're swimming over there? We might as well catch them before they get there.
would you have a number or a percentage in mind that you would want to take, or what? I mean, ideally, and I don't see this happening. I'm not proposing it, but what would be your ideal plan?
Whatever the DNR determined that they wanted to try. I mean, like, even if there's only 1, 2, like 4 commercial fishermen in the bay left that actually fish. And, if everybody got, just say 50,000 pounds, that's 200,000 pounds out of 12 million walleye. That's not a whole lot.
How would you catch them? Would you set up your trap nets?
Yeah, we fish trap nets for sure, yeah.
Well, MUCC is adamantly against this, but MUCC would also like to see this new proposed, they call it the Good Commercial Fishing Bill, to force you guys to check your nets on a regular basis. Now, if you ran, say, a muskrat trap up on shore, you would be required to check that every so often, but you guys don't have to check your nets. What do you think of that whole proposal, Todd?
Well, it's kind of, it's pretty tough. I mean, there's times it blows for 2 weeks and you can't get out. We try and check ours, at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, depending on the time of year. And it did put a hamper on. I mean, the way they talk, if you don't get out your nets, they're going to give you a ticket. Well, sometimes you can't get out, and they don't have any forgiveness to that.
How long can a fish survive in a trap net?
They can survive a long time, months. I mean, you're going to lose some for sure, but in that deep water, at least, they're pretty tough.
I hear what you're saying with the walleye, but I just want to be straight out and honest here. I am not in favor of letting commercial fishermen get access to those Saginaw Bay walleye. So I don't want to be disingenuous or dishonest with you, Todd.
No, I understand. That's not a problem. I know everybody says, well, you didn't put any walleye in. Well, we offered to build our own ponds years ago when they started doing that, and they wouldn't let us. And years before that, we've got the old foundation. They used to have a hatchery down the docks where they planted walleyes. So it's like, it's a tough question. That's for sure, Mike. I understand.
Yeah. So what does the operation look like these days? I mean, back in the old days, I could come out to the Bayport Fish Company. I could walk in there, and on ice, you had all kinds of different species of fish that you were selling. Does it still look like that, Todd?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. We don't usually keep whole fish around, and we'd have whole whitefish we sell, and the fillets, of course, and catfish at certain times of year. But other than that, we pretty much buy everything from Canada or from up north from the tribe. But, we still have perch, walleyes, catfish, burbot. If anybody wants them, we bring those in. Whitefish, we get lake trout and salmon from the tribe. So we've got a large variety of fish and seafood.
So where do people come from to buy your stuff? I mean, are they all thumb area people? Do you get people come from downstate or what?
No, we get people coming from all over the state. From a lot of people come up from Indiana, Ohio, Detroit. So, like they make it a weekly or a yearly trip or a weekly trip, some of them. They're from all walks of life.
So do you guys have boats on the water today as we're recording this?
No, not today. No, after that storm, it's still pretty wild out there.
So you guys, as commercial fishermen, just like me as a recreational fisherman, I'm always at the mercy of Mother Nature. Sounds like you guys have to deal with that too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, he can only stand so much beating, and you got to worry about the safety of the crew and your gear. You don't want to screw your gear up if you lift and it's too rough. You're going to cripple something, and it's not fishing correctly, and it's not doing any good if it's not fishing correctly.
All right, so when things calm down and you can actually get a boat and a crew on the water, what does that look like? What time do you guys leave the dock in the morning? How many folks are on that boat?
Traditionally, we've got three people on the boat, and usually leave at, daylight. Depending on, time of year, the earlier we get out, the better.
And how far are you running to get your nets?
For the whitefish, average 15 to 20 to up to 30 miles one way. It takes about an hour or so to get out there.
And when you do get out there and you get to your net, what is that process like? How are you lifting those nets? How does that all work?
Well, there's a flag that marks a pot on the net, and we pick that flag up and winch it up over the boat, and then shoal the fish to an area where we can bail them out. And then we sort through, this. We have to throw over the smaller fish, and if there's any lake trout or walleye or any other fish that's not on our list, we throw back. Away they go.
And when you're out there after whitefish, do you see many lakers or walleye?
We see very few walleyes, and we see a few lake trout. Nothing great. You might get 20 to a net at times. And they're all different sizes. Most of them are 4 or 5 pounders. Few bigger than that, but it's not too many lake trout down in this area. Now up north they got more lake trout than they do whitefish. But
well, Todd, I got to tell you, I've enjoyed the conversation. It was nice to catch up with you. You and I don't necessarily want the same things out of that fishery out there, but I have a lot of respect for what you guys do. I have a lot of respect that you've been doing it for so long, and you're just out there trying to make a living just like most of the rest of us are.
That is true, and I do like fishing with a pole, too. I go out catch walleyes, too.
So it's not like you're going without walleyes for the family table.
Yeah, no, that's pretty easy.
All right, Todd. I appreciate your time. Tod Williams of the Bayport Fish Company, the website bayportfish.com. That's bayportfish.com. As Todd says, I have spent some time over the past years with a video camera, a TV camera on my shoulder out there with those folks. And it's not an easy way to make a living. I think they're hardworking people. I think they just want to do what's best for their family. And for that, I do respect the tradition of commercial fishing in Michigan. That tradition goes back a long, long ways. We'll take a break. When we come back, a few more thoughts, then we'll wrap it all up with Wild Game Chef Dixie Dave Minar. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Tawas on WIOS 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. You can hear us down in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. And jumping back up to the east side of the state, WSGW 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now for these 3 hours. I call it the Outdoor Magazine studio. And today, it's been an interesting 3 hours. We did not know that we had phone problems until we actually started the show. And then it was kind of a mad scramble during that first hour to figure it out. And then we did figure it out, and the rest of the show has gone fairly smoothly. Thanks to 2 guys, Charlie Rude, who is in here right now, and John Dent, who has now jumped over to the other studio. And every time I look up, I see a different guy in front of me today because they're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So, guys, I do appreciate you making that work. And if John keeps this up, Charlie, he's going to have people out there going, Jonathan, instead of just the ones going, Charlie. Anyway, this segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. And this is an interesting time of year for taking care of your property, man. You're wrapping up the summertime stuff and you're getting ready for the fall. Now, that might involve pruning, it might involve maintenance, it might involve blowing out the sprinkler lines, it might involve your fall cleanup, it might involve the fall containers for the house. Lots going on at Reader Landscaping. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. Okay. Oh, I really enjoyed that conversation with Tod Williams. that was a long time overdue. So good guy. A lot of respect for him and his family and what they've done. Don't necessarily agree with what they want to do as far as taking walleye in the bay, but that's all right. See, we can disagree on certain topics and still be friends. I know that's a foreign concept in today's world when everybody is so divisive and they want to fight, and it doesn't have to be that way. So I respect the tradition and the history and the hard work that goes into commercial fishing. Just don't want them to take Saginaw Bay game fish. And that's okay. Okay, so what else is going on? This is Labor Day weekend. The last big hurrah of the summer as we make the transition into the fall. It's an exciting time of year because a lot of people absolutely love the fall. I believe that by this time of year, even the folks who absolutely love summertime are kind of ready to make the transition, kind of ready to see it go. And last week's hot, unbearably muggy weather with those storms that came through, yeah, I'm okay to be moving into a new weather pattern. What else? Oh, I got a new truck this week. Not because I needed a new truck or because the old truck was worn out, but I lease my vehicles and I used up my miles. I spend enough time on the road that I use my miles up pretty fast. So I went back to my friends at Garber Chevy, and I handed them back the ZR2, which was a beautiful truck. I mean, honestly, a beautiful truck. But also, honestly, more of a truck than I need. That ZR2 has a lot of off-road capabilities, and honestly, unless you live in the remote wilds of the UP, don't you realistically spend more time on the road than off? But I wasn't quite ready to go to a straight road truck. So I got myself a Trail Boss, which is lifted from the factory, not quite as big as aggressive as the ZR2. Well, I'm still working on that. I'm going to lift the front end, put some bigger tires on it, and put my graphics on there as well. I'll be going to Mike Hampton of Mike's Tire Sales. I'll be going down to Sign Image in Saginaw for the graphics. And I just got to thank the folks at Garber Chevy. There's Linwood, Saginaw, Midland, and Chesaning. Great folks, great dealerships, great customer service. If you are looking for a new vehicle, and they are expensive these days, there's no getting around it. There are no cheap new vehicles or cheap new leases these days, and interest rates are high. So honestly, you're going to be paying more than you did. There's just no way around it. But as long as you're spending the money, you might as well work with good people who I believe have your best interest at heart, will give you the best deal, and they'll take care of you after the sale. So that's why I work with the folks at Garber Chevy. I am excited to see, I got to talk about this. Wednesday Night Live, coming up September 18th at the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch. Call for reservations, 989-343-0892. I hate giving out phone numbers on the air, but if you need that phone number, send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. But the phone number is 989-343-0892. We will be there Wednesday, September 18th. We'll do a Wednesday Night Live at the beautiful Lumberjack Restaurant. The food is outstanding. The atmosphere is wonderful, and the people there are great. Joining us there will be Mr. AnglerQuest Brad Dupuie, Rich Krazan of Killer Food Plots, Steve Wyndham of MUCC, the Taggett family from Rec Broadheads, and more. We'll have some stuff to give away. We'll have a great time. We'll have some great food, and would love to see you there. That is Wednesday night, September 18th at the Lumberjack Restaurant, the Forward Corporation Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch. The live show starts at 7. I would encourage you to make your reservations for 5:30 or 6. 989-343-0892. 989-343-0892. We will take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this week's show with the man himself, wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. I don't know if he has another fish recipe for us or if he's ready to move on into the small game and the fall hunting season. You know how you can find out? Just like I'm going to find out. Just stay with us after the break as we check in with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. Sure appreciate you being along with us this weekend, as it is indeed a busy weekend for many of you, many of us. The Labor Day weekend. The fact that you're taking some time out of your schedule to hear me does mean a lot. It also means a lot to me that I know that I can get on the phone and I can reach out to wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, and he's going to be there every time. Even when the guy was having a heart attack, he talked to me on the radio show from the parking lot. Dave, you're a pretty dedicated guy, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I got a great friend I want to be dedicated to.
Oh, that's so nice of you to say. I feel the same way. What do you have for us this week?
Well, we got a salmon and seafood casserole au gratin. It's kind of like the ultimate in comfort food, you know. It's one of them dishes that you're just going to wrap yourself around it. So you're going to need... this is actually for a pretty large casserole, between 5 and 7 people this will feed. So it's nice for a dinner party also. So you need about a pound of peeled, deveined, and diced up shrimp, a pound of bay scallops, which is the small ones, a pound of crab meat. Get the real nice stuff. You can buy it pasteurized in a can, or you can get some crab legs and pick your own. You need about a pound and a half of salmon cut into 1-inch cubes, medium onion diced up small, a large red pepper, bell pepper diced up small, a couple of stalks of celery diced small, 8 ounce or so, or 12, whatever package of mushrooms you want to use. Cut them in quarters so you got nice pieces instead of slices. 3 to 4 cloves of garlic, more or less, it's up to you, and a dash of white pepper just to give it a little zing, and a splash of Worcestershire, the juice of a lemon, a pint of half and half, a cup of white wine. Whatever wine you're going to be drinking with this meal, I would say to use that, whether it's a Chardonnay or a Rhine. And then you need a cup of shredded cheddar, a package of the seasoned breadcrumbs and cornstarch. You're going to melt it down. It's a lot easier to use the cornstarch than make a roux. So you're going to bring about a quart of water up to a boil and the wine in a heavy saucepan, you know, and then drop in the seafood. When it comes back to a boil, strain off the liquid and save. Put the seafood on the side over there. And then rinse and wipe out the pan. Return the pan to heat with a small amount of olive oil. You can saute the onions, the garlic, the celery, the mushrooms, and the peppers. You don't want to brown this. You just want to cook it over low heat for maybe anywhere up to 5 minutes or so, just to break the flavor loose and get the cooking process started. And then you can add the stock back to the pan along with the lemon, Worcestershire, and the white pepper. When this is back to a boil, you don't want to stir it. You want to just don't break up the seafood. So, and then make it quite thick with the cornstarch, and then reduce the heat down to a simmer. And it's not going to scorch, so you don't really have to worry too much about that. Add half and half and 3/4 of the cup of cheese. Mix it real gentle, just barely folding it in, because it's going to actually kind of blend in a little bit better during the cooking process. And you want to pour this mixture into an oven-proof baking dish, top with the cheese and breadcrumbs, cheese first, breadcrumbs second, and then bake at 350 degrees for about 12 to 15 minutes, or until it's nice and hot and bubbly. And then you can serve this over buttered noodles or rice. And like I said, this is an ultimate in comfort dish to make a comfort food, to use some salmon up with, and it's great with other kind of fish too, but I like it with salmon. We used to sell this at the restaurant sometimes and make small portions of it, you know, in little small dishes and bake it, and people just loved it.
It sounds wonderful, Dave. Now, you said something about you don't want to brown this. You just want to saute it and break the flavor loose. Tell me more about that.
Well, when you saute something up, whether it's onions, garlic, mushrooms, pepper, celery, you just want to start to break the flavor loose. And what it's going to do is release a lot of flavor when you're sauteing it a little bit in a medium hot pan. You don't want to brown it because then it's going to have a different flavor entirely other than what we're looking for. You want to keep the integrity of all of these different ingredients.
Gotcha, David. And again, this is on page 47 of the cookbook, and I will post this on the Facebook page and Instagram this weekend as well.
Okay, I got bay leaves in there, and we don't want to leave bay leaves in a dish like that. So you can leave them out, or if you're going to count 4 bay leaves, make sure you take 4 bay leaves out. Because they don't cook up. They're going to be nice and tough. Gotcha.
Wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. David, have a great Labor Day weekend.
You guys, too, and everybody be safe and sane. Get ready for hunting season.
There you go. Safe and sane. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar with some great advice, as he always does have. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. The email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I would absolutely love to hear from you. I hope you enjoy this last big weekend, the unofficial end of the summertime season and the unofficial kickoff of the fall season. Lots of exciting things coming up. Again, my name is Mike Avery. The website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. The email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I appreciate you spending some time with me, and I look forward to talking next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.